I mean, my mother worked her way through Claflin, graduate top of her class, one of 9 children, would have been a pediatrician. That was her dream. But instead, she went back home to help her family, and she taught school. And so I am very, very conscious of my roots. All right, well, Hank, I am most proud of this wall because I wanted to do something in tribute to the civil rights legal icons who have made it possible. And I'm very clear, I don't get it twisted. But for them, we wouldn't be here. And so it is some very rare photos that I have to give Skip Mason credit for. And this one is literally of Justice Marshall when he was a very young man, right? And he's working for the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, right? And they are literally working on the brief for Brown versus Board of Education, which of course was the landmark Supreme Court decision that desegregated public education. And that is a very rare photo that I am so proud to have on my wall. Of course, Rosa Parks, Ms. Rosa Parks, Mrs. King. These are other photos of different people who have made a difference. This is a celebrity. This is him being really congratulating them. They're outside the Supreme Court after yet another victory in one of these landmark civil rights decisions. This I want to take just a second to explain. This on the left is Horace T. Ward, long before he ever became a judge. He was a young lawyer, and people don't realize that he actually was the first plaintiff in the lawsuit filed against the University of Georgia to get into the law school. Graduated from Morehouse with honors, with Atlanta University with honors, and they wouldn't admit him, right? And so he then, for 7 years, Hank, pursued that. They drafted him. It wasn't even wartime. He came back. They said, look, we'll write a check. We'll send you any place you want in the nation. Just don't do it. He said, no, I'm a Georgia resident. I want to go to the University of Georgia Law School. Long story short, he lost the case. He went away to law school, came back, and then became law partners with Donald Hollowell, who is the dean of the civil rights lawyers in this state and one of the most outstanding civil rights lawyers in the country. Constance Baker Motley became the first black federal judge, woman judge in the United States, but was also the only woman on the Brown versus Board of Education legal team. Vivian Malone Jones is my shiro. Integrating the University of Alabama, I could not have George Wallace on my wall, so we had to take it from that angle. And I just continue to celebrate her. Her family actually had asked me to speak at her homegoing service when she died a few years ago. A.T. Walden was the dean of black lawyers in this state long before my time. He's signing his oath of office as the first black judge ever in the state of Georgia. He was a municipal court judge here in Atlanta. Prudence Herndon was the first black woman judge in the state. And this I want to zero in on is just a very rare photo that they staged when they were in Washington for the March on Washington of these iconic leaders of the civil rights movement. And I'm so proud to have it. Eventually we're going to have little plaques with all the names and the history on it. And Judge Romay Turner Powell will be on this wall. We're just getting her picture redone. People, fierce civil rights lawyer, was on the team of the Heart of Atlanta case that became the landmark decision that went all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court that desegregated hotels. Because they said, oh, no, we own this hotel. It's a privately owned hotel. And they said, no, it's a part of interstate commerce. And if you're accepting people in interstate commerce, you've got to abide by federal law.
And one other thing you need to show me before we let you go. One other thing.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Okay, go.
Yes, we're going to go to my office. Well, Hank, you are no stranger to my office. You've been here several times.
Yeah.
But I wanted to share this picture, which you know, but I want to share it with the viewers. This is a picture literally of the day I was being sworn in as a judge of my parents, my dad and my mom. My dad died very suddenly 25 years ago. My mother is now 97, and it just is a constant reminder of why I have gotten to where I've gotten, because I stand on their shoulders and how much they've poured into me, and so I'll be forever grateful. But I just love this picture, and wherever I am, whatever office, whatever city I am in, you will always see this picture.
It goes with you.
Yes, it always goes with me.
Well, what better way to end than the way it began, right, with your parents? And so we're so thankful that you've taken the time to share so many of your precious memories, and they become our memories now because they've actually had such an impact in our lives. So thank you, Judge, for just thank you for coming and being a part of us.
You know I love you so much.
I know, and I love you more, and there ain't nothing you can do about it.
I love it. And I have to tell you really quickly, I don't know if we have a second, but Judge Ward, who I talked about, gave me my first legal job. When he was federal court, I was his first federal law clerk, right? Then talk about full circle, he is administering the oath of office to me.
Wow.
Is that not special?
That's just awesome.
So I've been enormously blessed.
You have such a strong and rich history of all of so many icons, and so we're just thankful. Thank you for gracing the it factor.
Oh, it is my pleasure. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. Look forward to seeing this episode with my friend, my shero, Judge Glenda Hatchett on the It Factor.
I am Creativity the Poet. The title of this poem is Stay Woke. My pen bleeds the blood of my heart all over these pages. And it's more than just phases of words on deaf ears, it's heard. You see, I have something to tell somebody. And God gave me a message so I can deliver. Quote, we live in a world where trained cops can act on impulse, but untrained civilians must remain calm with the gun in their face. Routine stops has become routine killings. Cops strut like Inspector Gadget, but they fear an unarmed black man. You see, we keep getting killed in these streets and nobody cares, but they want us to fight for a country that won't fight for you on our own homeland, dear officers. You know, we can grow to be something if you stop gunning us down. But what else can we do? So check it. Charles Kinsey, Miami, hands up while laying on the ground, shot. Mike Brown, St. Louis, hands up, shot. Alva, Brazil, Houston, hands up, shot 10 times, 3 in the face. We comply, we're shot. We defy, we're shot. You see, this list that goes on and on and on, and it's put out there for the world to see. We need to stop this police brutality. Corinne Gaines, Alton Sterling, Philando Castile, Freddie Gray, Sandra Bland, Terrence Crutcher. But I have something to tell somebody, and God gave me a message so I can deliver. You see, I say Black Lives Matter, but you want me to say all lives matter. You see, all lives do matter, but all lives aren't being murdered so openly and consistently, so okay, you're right, I'll say it. All Black lives matter. The government wants to kill the movement, but not the KKK. This system is problematic, so here's the static. They don't want you to see what we already know, so the issues, they won't solve them. They're sending smoke signals to mask the actual problem. Oxygen, I can't breathe. Eric Garner. You see, they feel infuriated because blacks dominating in melanin combinations, 45 trying to control the hood, but he's screwing up the nation. They hating on our movement and feeling abominated. You see, this style free is just a lyrical annihilation. Cops getting off even when the judge see the tape, and why Bill Cosby the only one convicted of a rape. I'm just saying, injustice isn't new. The cameras are. But black people, do Black lives matter when black lives take black lives? You see, we want change, and there's strength in numbers. So let's start with us. Wake up.
Man, I'm so excited. I get an opportunity to sit down with a young man that I'm motivated by, and he certainly has what I think is called it. Mr. Walter Brooks. How you doing, Walter?
Hey, what's going on?
Thank you. Look, you and I met, and we met in the community, and we met and we had an opportunity to talk. And although you're not dressed in your chef attire, you are a chef and a businessman. Tell us a little bit more about how did it all get started with you, Walter?
I guess really just a turn of different events in my life. I had a mobile fleet company here in Atlanta.
A mobile fleet? I didn't know about that. Okay, okay, go ahead.
No,
Okay.
I didn't tell you that either. No, it's so I got here and took over what was then Media One.
Okay.
I took over their fleet and serviced their vehicles and detailing and automotive maintenance for many years, and survived like 2 or 3 mergers. Still a national vendor with Comcast. So I went from Media One, AT&T, now to Comcast, and then I had gotten stricken with a bad appendix that about took my life, and about 4 surgeries after. And so I gave a thought to cooking. And one day I gave some dishes to my neighbors in Hilton Head. He stays above me, Tom. So his mom takes credit for it because I exchanged some ribs, and she's like, I don't know what you're doing for a living, but you be cooking. So Tom takes some good credit in that. But then I just kind of accepted the challenge. So people would say, well, do you do this and do that? I go, no, not yet. And I'll just go back in the lab and create new things. So I created my own rib flavors and dry rubs. And next thing you know, I said, okay, well, he said, well, I put bullseye with it. And they were like, it's bullseye. I'm like, yeah. And it was like, well, I make my own. I said, oh, okay. So I go back in the lab and I created a really good barbecue sauce from scratch. And so one challenge would always lead me to another. And then I said, okay, well, I was sitting there and I made my barbecue sauce. And I said, I looked at the 2 ingredients. I said, chocolate. That's how it goes good together. So I made a chocolate barbecue finishing sauce. And so I just kept creating more and more products. And then eventually had to segregate off who I was with the restaurant and food. And so I created a Brooks Made Gourmet Foods, which is a food company trademark, so that I can have my intellectual property secure from my brand of restaurant.
So you have a restaurant, and then you have the business side, because you're in how many countries are you in your products? And
we're poised to be out. We're already heading. We're already set up. Matter of fact, next week we're meeting with Brazil, Mexico, and a few others. But we're in India. We're looking for India, Brazil, Canada, Mexico, and we're actually going into Warner Brothers project. We are actually working with their head food and beverage. They found us at a food show at the Cobb and said this is something they were looking for. So they're actually opening a new SeaWorld in Dubai, and so I'll be flying down there a little while to.
Okay, so let's go back, because we're talking about the success already of it, right? Because it's already successful. So help me transition from the love of cooking to now the restaurant that you have up in Alpharetta and all of the things that you're doing. How did that? Tell me about that.
I guess it was a tasting ground.
Okay.
I did a catering company first.
Okay.
That's where I kind of got really well known for the catering. So I did, all the stuff with Georgia Power and Nelson Jeter's retirement, and just a lot of different people in the city with, Sonny Walker Group, and helping with some different things. And it got a lot of exposure with the catering part after I left fleet maintenance. And then one thing kind of led to another. I was tearing my wife's kitchen up, trying to cook at home. I left her with one eye and no oven, and it was a mess. So I finally got a restaurant, and since restored her kitchen, cost me a lot. So I got a little restaurant and started cooking from there. And I decided, I said, well, we really need a tasting ground for people to really not be booking catering, but also be able to try our food and be like, wow, I can get this, And so we opened the front of the catering place up as a restaurant. And it was a Three Brothers brand then. So it was Three Brothers Catering and Events, and it came to Three Brothers Restaurant and Catering, then it became Three Brothers Barbecue, and then it became no more because the name was taken, trademarked by some people in New Jersey. So I had to give it up.
Oh, wow.
But the concept came from the catering, and then getting people to be able to come in and experience great food without having to hire me as a caterer.
Well, I came by the restaurant and had an absolute blast. I mean, the food, and you know what I like is there's a healthy option to your food. I'm on this workout kick. I'm on this, trying to be as healthy as I can possibly be.
Right.
And what I loved about it was the healthy choices. What made you kind of go in that direction?
Same as you. After being stricken with health issues, I wasn't aware of my, no one really is until you get kind of unwell. And I realized that, man, I had all these surgeries, and I was in this hospital, and I was overweight, and I was like, oh my God, this is not cool. So I guess that was a shock for me. And then when I just lost 50 pounds, did a 12-week body plan, sort of like yourself. And I said, man, so I started incorporating a lot of healthier fare to my food. Well, I did it anyways in catering, but in the restaurant kind of fell in a creative rut of just barbecue. So then I said, this is, Lord had it when I had to give it up, the name. I did a name search, and someone read my biography, and it was Walter's going to be the next Starbucks of barbecue. So we came up with Starbecue House. And so Starbecue was born and became my franchise. So I said that gave me the culinary go ahead again to not be niched into, this is traditional, this or that. So I was able to create really, really cool, healthier options, kale and quinoa with nice, meat selections and all kind of fun stuff, and salads and the dressing. So I could really bring the gourmet side to the grill meats, and then lighten the fare up and make it a little bit more.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask you a question. I know this is gonna be a tough one for you, so I'm gonna set you up. It's really, really tough because people ask me all the time, what's your favorite poem, that you've written? And I'm like, that's like,
yeah,
I love all
my children.
It's like children, right? So what's your favorite dish? Do you have a favorite dish? Because I know what I like. I know what I had, but I also know I like the sweet potato pie that I don't share any with when I buy. Right. So what's that favorite dish that you have?
That's really hard.
I knew it would be.
That's hard. Yeah, because I got a lot of little children. For me,
top three.
My stuffed salmon, deboned salmon stuffed with crab.
Okay.
That's one of my all-time favorites. It's like Moby Dick caught twice, right? It's like 14, 15, 18-pound salmon. I take the bones out and stuff it with jumbo lump crab and smoke that, and it's just butter. But I think for me, grilling essentially has always been really interesting for me because I like to derive a moist product, a really transcendent product, not like your typical stuff where passion isn't part of the cooking process. Chicken's chicken, this is this and this and that. So I tried to kill the bird twice. So I really like moist chicken, and I like to cook a lot of chicken. But I'm passionate about creating food, so it's kind of hard to say it's one dish because I'll find another one tomorrow.
Yeah, right. And that you enjoy.
Because I'm on a pursuit to always find the best.
So let's transition a little bit. So what would you tell someone who's interested in starting a business, not just chef, but just what was some of the obstacles that you might have faced, or what were some of the pluses that you could give them as far as advice to starting their own restaurant or their own business? What is some of the research you have to do?
That's a very good question. I think it's the most important, but the most neglected process in starting a business because it's not anything to stop you. You can do whatever you want. You can just go and get your license. You can be like, I'm this person, and you're like thinking that's it. This is setup. I find that without walking into business with a proper plan, with looking at the end in mind and saying, okay, if I'm going to start this business, where do I see myself? What things do I, because you don't know what you don't know.
Exactly right.
And see, that's the problem with starting a business. You don't know what you don't know, but you do get consequences because no good deeds go unpunished. You're going to get a consequence. It doesn't matter if you know or you don't know. So the challenge is when your ambitions are that great to do something, and that can be a double-sided sword, because you tend not to listen. Passion can be a good or bad thing. It can put people to say, I don't care what you say, I'm just going to do what I'm going to do, and then you screwed, you're done. And so the thing is, to that question, I think it's about just good guidance. There's too much information out here. Peter Drucker, you know, there's a lot of great 21st century people that created business, and you can learn before you get started. You can actually do some research and say, okay, what do I need? You can actually, the best thing to do is you got the Small Business Development Council. That's free. You can go down there, they'll create your business plan, UGA, they'll do all this stuff that you bump into 20 people that charge you money that won't add up to anything.
Because you also had a great mentor, Sonny.
Yes.
Yeah, Sonny, and I suggested everybody get a good mentor. So you want to talk a little bit about Sonny? I know that Sonny was very important to you.
Yeah, he just passed about a year ago. And still, you know, I kind of think of, I always say, you know, at his funeral, I say, I know he's gone, but I just miss talking to him, you know, having to respond to me, you know. He's, you know, a mentor like that is just, it's very rare. It's a diamond in the rough. You know, he basically took a lot of people, including myself, under his wing to do what I feel is not done a lot, which is to go out here and pull someone up. That's going in a help. That's trying to do the right thing. You know, may just need. You know, I'm not saying put in people what's not there, but sometimes people just need that encouragement to get to that next step. And he was a connector. You know, he was just the kind of guy that said, you know, I need you to do this, and people said, sure. You make a phone call, I need you to connect with him, and you connect with him. You didn't know the rhyme or reason at that point.
You just did it.
You just did it. You didn't need any
you
other
knew,
explanation.
And you knew it was going to be for a good reason.
Exactly.
You knew it.
And it was being obedient, you know, because when you get a mentor, you don't, you know, you want to believe that you're still in control and you still know everything. And it's almost like going to a therapist, but you're gonna put them on the couch and you're gonna, you know, and you're not getting a paycheck. You know, you gotta let them, you know, they'll tell you they'll tell you the stuff you don't want to hear. They'll tell you the things that your friends will tell you what you want to hear. You know, a mentor is gonna tell you what you don't want to hear.
So we got to wrap it up, but I want to. I got one other question. I always ask all of my guests. What would you tell your younger self? Wow. What advice would you give your younger self?
Well, I think for myself, looking hindsight's 2020, I think it's not wasting the time that, you know, someone always says to you, do this or do that. And when you're young, everything is, yeah. I heard that, I heard this, I heard that. You know, I got time to hear it again too. Don't. You know, it's about really listening and taking in what someone's telling you and vet it and making a choice. Don't just let it be there. You know, take the information and decide whether you believe it or you don't. You know, but the worst thing you can do is just do nothing. Do nothing, let the information sit there. And then, you know, I tell my kids this all the time. They're both in college now. And I'm like, you know, soon as you graduate, nothing else is going to matter. All that stuff going on in between high school, blah, 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 blah. As soon as you wake up and realize, I got to go to school tomorrow, then you realize you had a plan. You had to, everybody else is going to the next level. And so I think it's about taking advice, finding a mentor early. I think that's the key thing for most young, because I call it reboarding. You have a different generations of people that don't necessarily connect all the time. But reboarding allows you to say, okay, I'm gonna take this young with the old, I'm gonna mix it, I'm gonna try to make these relationships like with Sonny, much older, but very, very knowledgeable person and able to talk to the butler all the way to the president. You know what I mean? And just that kind of personality. And I think that's the key, is just don't turn down, get with someone that can be a little bit older, wiser, and help you to.
Well, look, I really appreciate this time. I thank you for giving me something we couldn't give you back time. And I want to get you back on this, because we didn't even talk about the community service side of what you do as well, too. So I just want to say thank you, Walter. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Walter Brooks. Y'all need to look him up. We're going to have all this social media stuff on. You'll see it on this post. But we are just so honored to have you. Thank you. We're going to go right back. We'll be right back in just a minute. Thank you.
I am Creativity the Poet. The title of this piece is Motivation. Behind every beating heart, there's a story. And everyone has a story to tell, but no one can tell your story better than you, so never forget your struggle because you'll lose your direction. Never forget your struggle, always strive for perfection. Life is an ongoing lesson and every tragedy has its blessing, so stop stressing. You see, God wouldn't have brought you to it if he couldn't get you through it, so your purpose in life, continue to pursue it. Now, where your future takes you depends on the choices that you make. You have the strength to control your own fate, so never live your life on a maybe and don't allow others' negative perception of you define and decide your own destiny. Just live free. Now, we can do the things we want if we just try, so stop wondering to yourself why and look to the sky and begin to fly. To reach your goal, you have to have the heart of a lion. Strive to keep pushing, don't quit, just keep trying. Your expectations of your purpose you should want to meet, so never stand by anyone who clearly tries to cut success from under your feet, and don't be so content to stand in the sand by the seashore when there's an entire body of ocean that's ready for you to explore, so don't get down about your past. Because even flowers need dirt to grow for the ability to last. You see, these words are small in this book that I write in, but the outlook they give speaks big on life, and I don't expect those to understand my journey who has never walked my path, because my ambition to succeed is through this pen, so you will feel my wrath. So I voice my heart into these words and verses. I'm a lyrical blessing, I'm a poet with a purpose. Touching lives through what I speak, because what I speak can strengthen you if you were weak, because this is my therapy. I do this to better me for my sanity. Poetry is the heart of me, not just a hobby, so don't be afraid of me. I write for those who struggle like me, so hear me as I bless you lyrically. The mind of me needed a release, so sometimes I have to prove to me my own creativity. You see, I'm speechless, but I'm speaking. You see, I'm writing in between the white spaces of these lines, and this pen fits between the spaces in mine, and I'm at a loss for words within these rhymes. I'm free falling, and what if I'm going blind, and I'm trusting you to hold me. Discover and unfold me like illegal drugs, I'm addicted to poetry. You see, it flows through my veins together, bleeding ink within the lines of this page, and I'm fluent in this language that poets speak. Poetry is a secret we need not keep it. I'm high off the fumes because I took it all running on E. I can't breathe without you. Feel me. Watch me ride you on a high-speed chase, catch me. Arrest my desires to write, convict me. Confine me into your prison, give me life without the possibility of parole. Sentence me to death. In poetry, lethally inject me.
Thanks for watching. Go to AIBTV.com/donate to support programming like this. Your contributions may be tax deductible.